guys, what is up? Today we're going to be going over the startup of a Boeing 737-800 Zibo mod. Currently we are at the airport. Nothing is started. Engines are not on. Battery is not even on. So we're going to start up the aircraft. Alright, first we're going to go to the ground services, connect the GPU, which is the ground power unit. It's a battery that sits down on the ground right over here that powers the airplane before you start up the APU, which is basically a battery on board the plane, and before you start up the engines. You turn ground power on. So next we are going to turn this emergency exit lights and battery guard down. That's also going to help power the plane. And I recommend making a list of this in sequential order, and that could really help out. You start the plane, so we're going to turn the logo lights off, this to steady. Any collision lights off, wing well off.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking off in just a few minutes. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for departure.
Alright, so next we're going to turn on the fuel pumps.
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
I like to turn on the fasten seatbelt sign. Also this to help the chimes. Turn the APU bleed on to start the APU. Turn the packs to high. That's going to help with plane not depressurizing when you're above 10,000 feet. Turn the window heat on. I also like to always put this panel to bright, just because if you're taking a really long flight, it could get to be night before you even realize, and then you're going to have a very hard time landing the plane when you can't see your controls. You can also make the yoke go away to access these panels by pressing the Y button. Alrighty, guys. Next, what we're going to do is I believe we're ready to start the APU. So if you've done everything in order like I've done here, you should be able to come down here and to this APU right here, tap it down on, and then hold it down on start, and then the gauge to the left of the wiper knob should start moving in just 1 sec. So give that a second. It's gonna start moving. Usually, yeah, there you go. And once it starts moving, you can release it and let that start up. Now you gotta give that a minute to start up, or else it won't work. So come over here if you wanna welcome the passengers. You can do that. Alright, I'm going to make sure these settings are good. Also, another tip here for taxiing, make sure when you do this, your nose wheel axis is on yaw, and that's going to help you be able to taxi and not go off the taxiways or runways. Alrighty. Next, if you would like to, you can go to the Avid tab while that's starting up. Also go to airport. Today we are going to be going to Houston. You can select that airport and you can check out the ILS thing. I believe we're landing at runway 15, right? So the ILS is at 111.15. So in the next video I'll show you how to use ILS in an approach, but in a basic sense, if you have it in one of your active frequencies right here. So let's say I wanted to put this, so let's make it 111.15. That controls that, and then I need to go down here to make it 1.15. I think I missed it. And then you switch it to active, and what that's going to do is once you're really close to the runway, it's going to automatically switch over to ILS, and it's going to glide the plane in on the perfect, as they say, glide slope, and the perfect trajectory for landing. To do that, always when you start up, just come here, go to the airport you're arriving at, check out your runway like we did in the flight plan on the last video, and then put that into your radio stack right here. APU should be ready to be started. If you click these two, start it up. Now, if it doesn't switch over seamlessly like that and you didn't wait as long as I did, it's probably everything's just gonna kind of shut off a little bit. Just flick the ground power on again. Everything's alright, just give it a few more seconds and then try turning APU on again. Alright, so now that the APU is on, we can disconnect the GPU right here. And now we are completely on onboard power. So now what we can do is, I believe we can turn the probe heat on and the odometer, and we can start aligning the IRS display. So we're going to do that by turning this knob to HDGSTS, and then nav, and then nav. It takes 6 minutes right there. It always switches over to 6 minutes to start up the IRS. So next, what I believe we should do is input your flight plan into the FMC. Since we did this in the last video, guys, I'm not going to do it for you right now, but I'm going to skip to right after I put stuff into the FMC, so we're going to be right back. Alrighty, guys, we are back here. Alright, I just put everything into the FMC, and I set everything into the altitude right here, and also the altitude right here. So once you've done that, you can arm the flight directors to get the autopilot working, and also arm this. So after we do that, what we're going to do is, I believe we are ready for pushback pretty much. Everything should be set. I did set 5 degrees to flaps, so right before pushback, set your flaps right here. And other than that, I believe we are ready for pushback. So what you can do is, I have the Avatab plugin installed, so I have the chart of this runway, or of this airport right here. So we are currently about right here, so we're going to push back to the right, and then we're going to go down this to runway 11, which is in the flight plan. So I believe I need to pre-plan this. Yeah, I need to just turn this right around. Let's delete that. Alright. So now we're just going to do the exact same thing, but the other way around. Alrighty. So now we're requesting.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
This. Right here.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is trotting up.
There you go. Alrighty, so now what we're gonna see is, I'm gonna close the flight door right over here. Right over here. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna close the flight door. We had a thing right there. The tow just drove up. We're about to push back. What I like to do is, whenever I push back, as soon as you start the pushback, I like to click this button. It's en route time, and that's going to tell you how long you've been going since pushback.
Okay,
it's
all
cool
doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Yep. Yeah. Takeoff and landing and bright. All right, that's the lights, and the lights on the plane actually do change. It's quite cool. It is quite cool. Now we just need to wait for them to be ready, and then once they start pushback, we will start the engines. And I'll go through that procedure with you. Also, just to get a better look of the flight plan, if you go over here, see it's on map right now. If you click it over to plan, it'll show you all the waypoints. And you can click step, and it'll go through the waypoints with you. Tell you your top of climb, top of descent, and it'll tell you how you're going to come into the runway.
Connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Alright, we're going to release the parking brake when they tell us to. Right there.
Starting pushback. And you may start engines.
Alright, let's wait for them. There you go. En route time is set. Alright, now we're going to set engines, and then I'll come back to that. Alright. Engines. First of all, to start the engines, you have to turn the packs off. Right there, and that's basically everything you have to turn off. And then you're going to turn the setting to ground right here, and you're going to see this dial start to move. So once this number gets to 1.2, you're going to release the fuel valve by pulling this up. It's already at 0.4, 5, 6, 7. when that gets to 1.2, rank it like it is now. You're gonna pull that up, and then you're gonna turn the other one back, and the same thing's gonna happen. You can take a look at the flight plan and all that, and while you're taking a look at the flight plan, you can also go out maximum distance, and you can see the entire flight plan. It's starting up now. It's a cool feature. Let's go back to map. Also, what you can do is you can, one sec, once this gets to 1.2, I'll show you. But there's a world map on the avatar that will show you where you are in the world. So if I go right here and I get a map, it'll show me that I am right here in the world, right there. And it'll show me that eventually I'm going to get to Houston right here. I'm going to click home on that. So now that the engines are started, we're going to go
Operation
ahead.
complete. Set parking brake.
We're going to go ahead
Connecting tow. Stand by.
and turn the packs back on, because if not, we will have no cabin pressure once we get over 10,000 feet. And it's going to say dual bleed. Make sure you turn the APU bleed off, and then switch over to the engine generators and turn the APU off. That's pretty much how you're going to start the engines. I believe that is, also click disconnect main signals right here. But I believe that is basically, in a nutshell, how to get from no power to the taxi. Alright, in 1 sec, that's the runway right there. I'm going to show takeoff, and then activating autopilot, and then I'll probably throw in a landing at the end.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
There you go. Alrighty, so what I like to do is I like to pull out the charts and all that. I'll put the link in the description to the Ultimate Pushback plugin and the Avatab plugin, because they really are helpful if you want to install those for the game. So we're right here, and we're going to be going this way and make a turn right there. I've done this. I've been from this airport multiple times, so it should not be that hard to push back. They're doing hand signals on the right, and they're getting back in. Alright, release the parking brake. I'm going to put the flaps actually back, and I'm going to put those on the runway so you can taxi well. There are some glitches where, like this, where you do go through like bags. That does happen sometimes, but not the end of the world. So we're going to begin to taxi. I'll go through the out view right now. Yeah, it doesn't look too great because of that. But it's pretty funny. It's pretty loud though. Alright, we'll go back into the main cockpit. I'm going to throttle just a bit. Once we make it to the end of the runway right there, we're going to get on the runway. And then, yeah, we're going to take off. Turn on the taxi lights right there. See the 10 button. I just like the sound. We're going to keep going. See, you can also move around in the cockpit, which is useful for a lot of different things. I'm gonna get on this on the flight line right here. So I'm not using my joysticks to steer right now. It's I'm using the rudder. Which in a real plane you see those pedals down there. There would be pedals down there, and that's actually how you steer. So I do not have rudder pedals, but there's a system on the joystick that I use to do that. Alright, we're getting there. We're getting to the runway, right end of the runway right up here. You can see the rest of the gates right over there. we're definitely taxiing along. Everything should be set. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help out. But yeah, another takeoff suggestion. When I take off, I go do 15 degrees of elevation, and when your co-pilot's gonna say positive rate, and that's when you put up the gear. I'm just gonna pull back on the throttle just a little bit there to make this an easier turn. See, this turn, if you didn't put that nose wheel steering on yaw, would be impossible. You could not make this turn. You wouldn't be able to turn wide enough to make this turn. Now we're turning onto the runway. Like, you would be in the grass right now if you did not change that setting, and that's a very important setting to change. Alright, once you're in a desired position, you can push the parking brake, put the throttle to 0, and then we're going to let the autopilot basically take off, kind of. That is a thing with the MCP right now, where you kind of can have the autopilot take off if you really want to. Set the parking brake, put this to 0. Alright, now if we take a look at the outside of the plane, we are on the runway, and we are ready to take off. Alright, so we are basically going to release the parking brake and then hit this N1 button, and what that's going to do is that's going to put our engines up right here. So that takeoff config, you can, that does happen sometimes. That's due to the FMC calculating one thing not to the fullest of its extent, but generally it does not do a ton for you. Alright, so we're going to take off right here. Once we hit our VT speed of 151 right here, we're going to take off as detailed in the other video. Alright, we're going to roll back. 15 degrees. And now co-pilot set positive rate. We're going to bring up the gear. We're going to keep climbing at 15 degrees until we hit 1,000 feet. So you see the gyroscope right here. That is going to be your speed. That's going to be your altitude. So to turn on the autopilot, what we're going to do once we hit 1,000 feet, we are going to go ahead and turn on VNAV, vertical and lateral navigation, and then hit command, and then hands off the controls. And then what we're going to do is basically sit and wait until we go this, I don't know, 200 something nautical miles, and then we'll prepare to land. The only other tip I would have for you guys is basically just to, once you hit your cruising altitude of 34,000 feet, turn this down to 0,000, and now that's not going to take you down to that level unless you click level change. So, and that's going to help you descend properly. So as long as you have this ILS frequency in, what we're going to do, the video tomorrow is going to be on how to land an ILS approach and visual approach. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and see you next time.
The devil's in the detail, in good inside.